أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. We seek refuge in God from Satan. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Tonight we're starting at Surah 55, and our teacher is going to be Lori, right? But before we start, I want to make some corrections. My khutbah today, I make some boo-boos sometimes. Sometimes I say things that do not appear to be not very tactful. For example, we have here a great team of cake bringers or cake makers. And when I asked, and Naghmeh's turn, Lori's turn, I said the best. So we're all great makers of cakes, bringers of cakes. And this appears not to be tactful, but I have to explain to you that each believer is the best. So when I say the best, I'm referring to every single one of them. Because we're all, I hope I don't make it worse. No, honest, because you people are so special that every one of you is the best. And when I say that, I just want to pay you the highest possible compliment without infringing on the others' properties. But they are the best, each one of them. Every single. Did I describe your cake as the best when you brought it in? Now, how do I get out of this one? Help! I think I get out by saying, okay, take it over, Lori.
I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. God, most gracious, the one who teaches the Quran, the one who created the human being, the one who taught him how to distinguish right from wrong. The sun and the moon created as timing devices. The stars and the trees prostrate. He raised the heaven and established the balance. You shall not transgress when you weigh. You shall be equitable when you weigh. Do not cheat when you trade. He made the earth for all the people, with fruits and palms with sheaves, with food grains and flour. Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? He created the human from clay like the potter, and created the jinns from blazing fire. Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? Lord of the two east and the two west, which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? He separates the fresh water from the salt water. Between them is a barrier they cannot surmount. Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? From the two seas you extract pearls and coral. Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? He controls the ships that roam the sea like flags. Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? Everyone on earth will perish, but the presence of your Lord will continue. He is the possessor of majesty and honor. Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? Everyone in the heavens and the earth implores him. Every day he is in full control. Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? We will deal with both of you, the two entities, humans and jinns. Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? O you jinns and humans, if you can penetrate the outer limits of the heavens and the earth, then penetrate. You can only penetrate when given authority. Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? You will be bombarded with masses of fire and molten metal, and you can never succeed. Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny?
Do the same thing over there. Lima has grown up enough now. Take good care of him.
This chapter is very special to me because I have this weakness that I'm very impatient with knowledge, and if I don't know something, I can't grasp it. and it always caused me trouble in school because if I didn't understand it, I couldn't do anything about it. And I became Muslim, and I read the Quran, and I found out that I had to submit even though I didn't understand something. It was really a test for me because I just wanted to know. And I never understood the jinns. It was just like, I read it, and I knew that they existed. Thank you. And I knew because it was in the Quran, I had to believe it, but I didn't know what they were, and nobody could explain it to me. And I got really wild explanations of what the jinns were. And it always troubled me, but I just forced myself to submit. And in the second chapter of the Quran, where it says that the believers are those who believe in the unseen, and this was part of the unseen. And I knew that inshallah with time that God would explain it to me. And one of the blessings of being in this mosque is having things explained to us. And as Rashad said in the khutbah today, it's a mercy from God that He sends a messenger from among us to explain to us. The knowledge is here in the Quran, and all of us have read the Quran. I read it once a month from front to back, and every time there's something new. And we get what we need at the time we need it. And we in this mosque are just developing so far, it's just amazing. Rashad and Lisa and Hassan went to Canada, and there where the people believe the way we do, they're still way behind us in the knowledge because we're there every Friday night learning and studying. We have the input of all these believers here, and we have a messenger that is given the knowledge that is passed on to us. And we're responsible for the information in the Quran. And, the verse in the Quran that was admonishing the romance was saying that they were believers when they weren't really, they were just submitters, and that's the first step. But only the believers can attain paradise. So if we don't have absolute certainty, we can't ever grow and develop to our fullest extent. And that's where the increased knowledge is such a blessing. And I've read this verse so many times, and the first time I read it, you too, the humans and the jinns, I just didn't understand what it meant. I didn't understand what the jinns were, what their role was, what they had to do with me or with us. It was just a mystery, and I just, like I said, I had to force myself not to question it and not to be hung up about it. And when we have that discussion about jinns and the Quranic studies, I just kept my mouth shut and, heard different things. But now, just in this last year, we found out what this is, and so the chapter has a totally different meaning. And for the first time, I understand what it means. And we know now that the jinns are, they have the same requirements. There's other verses in the Quran that says that they have the same requirements that we do. Some of them believed in Jesus, and they believed in other things, and then they heard the Quran, and they believed, and they have the same requirements that we do. And they also have the same rewards that we do. They're entities that we can't see, we don't know. They can see us, but we can't see them. And yet, the heaven that's described here in later verses is for them too. They have their own, but it's the same setup as ours. It's exactly the same for them. And it's like, these creatures that are so important in this scripture that we don't know anything about. And now we know that the jinns were those that, before creation, sided with Satan and took a stand against God and believed that Satan could be a god besides God, that God could have partners, which is the ultimate blasphemy. And so they were banished, and they have a chance to redeem themselves as well. And our job is to, and I used to read about Satan and his troops and generations of jinns and humans, and I didn't know how do they come to be generations? How do they multiply? How do they, what do they do to reproduce themselves? And now we know that a jinn is assigned to each one of us, and so their reproduction it coincides with our reproduction. That each one of us is given a companion at the time of our entry into this world, and we're in the same boat. We both sinned. We both came to this earth with original sin. We both took a stand against God, the jinns more forcefully than we did, but we took the same stand as not being for God, because there's only two ways. Either you're for or you're against, and we were wishy-washy, but basically we were against God. we've both given the chance to redeem ourselves. The thing is, the jinns took the definite stand, so they're going to try to convert us to Satan's way of thinking and to the original sin that we committed. So we have to convert them. So from the time of birth, we're in this constant struggle with our jinn companion to convert them to righteousness and to protect ourselves from falling into the path that they chose. And it's a struggle every day of our lives, and it just goes on and on. And the blessing about knowing who your enemy is knowing what they are, what their goal is, what their tactics are, so you can learn how to defend yourself. And that's what the Quran is, and that's where these blessings come from. So we know that. And to me, the greatest blessing of all is knowing that we do have original sin. We're bad. We were born bad because we took the stand against God. Okay, so now that we know that, we know what we have to do. We have to just every day of our lives try to redeem ourselves from that sin. And the Quran is very specific about giving us the way to do it, and we know now, we've heard it several times in Qur'an, that we have to ask ourselves every day, who is my God this week? Okay, because that's our only goal in life, to redeem ourselves. Nothing else has any importance whatsoever. We have to do certain things, we have to support ourselves, we have to take care of ourselves, but with the goal in mind that this is to do righteousness. We can't be a burden to society, we can't steal, so we have to work and support ourselves. So it's all in tune with the same thing, which is purifying ourselves and growing and developing our soul. So as soon as you take that stand, then the jinns are going to try to, your companion and others are going to try and make you stray away from that path. And the greater the stand you take, the greater the enticements are going to be, and you just have to be prepared. And I've talked to several people who said that they encountered the same thing I did when I made the stand, that I was going to really try and devote more of my thoughts to God because I wasn't doing enough, and I knew it, that they just took over, and they didn't want me to. Even the little that I was doing was in danger of not being done at all. It's just a constant struggle. And so I know this now, and I know that I have to just be on the alert at all times for this. And we know that most of it is sneaky whispering. And there's even a Sura where it's, this is devoted to this, that Satan whispers to us, and little things that don't seem so bad. We've talked about this before. You can wait till the game is over before you pray, or I'll pray later, and then something happens and you don't pray. And that time can never be regained. If you miss a prayer, you can't make it out. That time is gone. The inhabitants of hell are the farthest from God on the day of judgment. Knowing that heaven is close to God, they will leave hell and sneak into the area closer to God. But because they are not sufficiently prepared to come close to God, they will suffer terribly in the presence of God, and will flee back to hell, and so on forever. So here is this vicious circle that they're in.
It's just like the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, they don't believe in hell, but they believe 144,000 go to heaven, and the remainder of their chosen people or whatever go to paradise. But they still deny hell. They say there's no burning hell, there's none of this. You just no longer exist, which is a lie, out lie in itself, because nothing that exists can be destroyed. Like matter can't be recreated or destroyed, ever destroyed. It just recycles in the real world that we're in the other world. It's not the real world, but in the world we're in now. So they don't believe in hell, because if you tell them anything contrary to anything pleasant after death, they say, well, we just don't exist anymore. So we never get punished for what we do wrong.
That's
our punishment, not existing. But we can get a reward. If we're real good, we get this reward. But if we're real bad, we just don't exist anymore. Just have a reward and no punishment.
They wish this.
That's what I'm saying. This is what I thought about.
Quran says they would wish that.
Yeah, this is the hell they used to deny.
Yes.
Well, they deny hell.
Just want to add here something that you should all know. I know Lord knows that, but she just didn't mention it yet. It has to do actually brought 39. Was recognized will not be asked. Oh, 39, yeah. The humans and the jinns will not be asked about their sins. Nobody will need to ask anybody about anything because the believers develop their souls and the disbelievers fail to develop their souls. And in Surah 17 we're told that the differences in the hereafter, I mean, in this room the difference in our sizes are within a few inches. But in the hereafter the difference will be like the difference between a mouse and the city of New York, the city of Tucson, let's say. So when you see somebody the size of the city of Tucson, he or she has developed the soul sufficiently. That's why they will be able to come closer to God. When you see somebody the size of a mouse, you don't need to ask, what did you do wrong? So this is why nobody will need to ask anybody about their sin. It is so obvious. There will be no question. Also in Surah 17 we're told that everybody will be the judge for him or herself. Because in that dimension we will see what we really look like, how much we really developed, or how much we lack developed. So 41, the guilty will be recognized by their looks. They'll be undeveloped, they'll be shrunken, like being born without arms and legs. Deformed. They will be born into the hereafter, deformed, undeveloped, aborted. But they'll be alive, very well, very alive, not well. Also, God lets us understand, as Lord explained about 44, how they will try to sneak into heaven and they find it worse than hell. They will sneak into the lower heaven. They will find it worse than hell because they cannot come any closer to God. See, God left it completely up to us. Completely. That's why God does not inflict an atom's weight of injustice. It's absolutely up to you. You can be as close to God as you want in the high heaven, or you can be as far from God as you want. It's completely up to us. So the conclusion is that God does not put a single person in heaven. It is the people who insist or choose and insist on going to heaven. The whole thing will be automatic in the hereafter. That's why it is important to do, for example, the 5 prayers a day. You don't do the 5 prayers every day, you don't know. That's the minimum that you can do. Because those are the means for the real person. So imagine if you don't feel, if your body does not die and you don't feel the body for 2 months, what will your body look like? There's no death in the hereafter. Just imagine not eating for 2 months. And the people out there in the street, they don't feed their soul for years and years and years. Can you imagine what they look like? Just look into our dimension here and think of bodies that didn't eat for a year. You see those skeletal pictures in the starving people in Central Africa, Ethiopia, Sudan, what they look like? You can see the ribs, the shrunk, skin and bones. And this happens to the soul. If the soul is not fed, the 5 meals every day, the guilty will be recognized by their looks. You can tell who is starving in Africa and who is not by looking at them. And then hereafter you'll be able to know who is starving and who is not, except it will be by choice. So now we'll go back to Lori and number 46, the higher heaven.
Yes. For those who reverence the glory of their Lord, there will be 2 paradises. Which of your Lord's marvels can you 2 deny? With abundant vegetation, which of your Lord's marvels can you 2 deny? 2 springs run freely therein. Which of your Lord's marvels can you 2 deny? They will have 2 kinds of every fruit. Which of you Lord's marvels can you two deny? They will relax on furnishings lined with silk, while the fruits of the two gardens are brought near. Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? They will have magnificent spouses therein, never before touched by any human or jinn. Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? They will look like gems and corals. Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? Is the reward of righteousness anything but the best blessing? Which of your Lord's marvels can you two deny? And these verses are just so beautiful. The higher heaven, and we know that the verses describing heaven and hell are allegorical because there's no way that we can conceive or understand what it really will be like. So God gives us things that brings it into our own dimension. But we know that there are stratifications, and for those, it's very clear here, for those who reverence the glory of their Lord, who've done everything that they have been able to do, developed their souls, have kept the commandments, who've not set up another God besides God, then God rewards those with the best blessings, and He doesn't have to do it. But there's a verse in the Quran that says that God is appreciative, and it's just, that's so incredible to me because He doesn't need us at all. Why should He be appreciative of anything that we do? It's just that He is most gracious, most merciful, and we can't comprehend that kind of mercy because we're bound by our own selfishness and our own desire to succeed in our own concern with our own well-being. We can't imagine that something could be so gracious and so merciful that it could just provide all of these things for us. It's just the ultimate of just leisure, not having to do anything, and everything that you want, every kind of food that you want to eat, and you don't have to do anything. It's just, the springs are running freely, and you don't have to worry about finding a spouse and going through all of these changes, and they're just there, and you don't have to do anything at all. It's just an incredible mercy. And, what did we have to do in this life to get there? It's like the most incredible, somebody offers you a deal and said, if you buy stock at, 50 cents a share, and in 10 years it'll sell for $1 million a share, and you think, that's impossible. How could anything like that exist? But this is even greater. All we had to do was say our 5 prayers every day, not to have any other gods besides God, which is for our own benefit anyway. God doesn't need us. To do the religious duties that are so simple, to fast for 1 month, which if we know is good for us, it lowers our blood pressure, it gives our kidneys a break. We know that praying is good for us. We know about lubricating the joints and combating arthritis. All of these things that are done for our benefit anyway, and just in exchange for doing that, we get this unbelievable, this paradise that is beyond our wildest dreams. And we know that it's even greater than this, because this is just something that God gives us, which is to our limited ability to perceive anything. What God has in store for us is so much greater. In fact, we're told in the Quran that we can't even imagine what is in store for us as a reward for doing what we're supposed to do in the first place. It's just incredible mercy. And, we've talked about this before sometimes. Well, the lower heaven isn't that bad either. When we read the next verses, you'll see. But the picture here, when there's not that great a difference, is that we know that the higher heaven just means that we'll be closer to God. And that's the only understanding that we really need to have, is that we'll be closer to God. And the further away from Him we are, the more miserable we'll be. So even though we'll be in paradise in a lower heaven, it won't be the same. And then the next verse is the lower heaven, starting with 62.
The next surah, inshallah, will tell us who goes to the higher heaven and who goes to the lower heaven. Very specific. And our teacher will be Naghmeh Friday. Surah 56 Naghmeh. I can also. Before this.
She left this virus and grill it on bag, and said she had the baby right now. She left the baby.
nothing bad will happen to her. Allah will accept Al-Fatiha for Yula and her baby. And will accept Al-Fatiha also ask God to heal Lori, her voice. And Perry Bash's daughter Lamia is having an operation on her teeth next week on Friday. God loves it when we pray to Him and ask Him to heal our friends and heal us. Ask Him for the dearest wish. Also, when I pray to God to bless the birthday folks, Suad, Hamid, Hamid's birthday is tomorrow, and Suad's birthday is on the 7th. And the Iriships are having an anniversary, the 19th anniversary, I think. So we'll ask God to give them all the greatest year coming up, and every year after that to be even better. God's blessings. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Also, let's to bless Sherry and keep our friend forever.
From far ahead. Okay. We know. Really, should I repeat this? Oh, okay. Okay. God says, and those who are far ahead will be far ahead, and they will be closest to God. And far ahead is, of course, the highest heaven. And we know that far ahead doesn't mean how much money you have or what looks you have or how much education you got, but it means what the kind of intelligence that you have within, where you see God and the truth and righteousness. And we know that that's what puts us far ahead, not because, like I was saying earlier, that there are a lot of people who have all those things and they feel like they have a lot of power and they're in control, but they are very miserable and they go through drugs and alcohol. Most of the people who are out there that are into drugs and alcohol are doctors, people that we go to help us, people who make all that money and who are in the high parts of society, and people who think they are in control. Not that every doctor is bad or anything like that, but that power has a lot of times led to trouble because people are not righteous enough and they don't see and they don't open their hearts and they don't let go of that ego enough to understand that if you use your power with God's will, then maybe you'll get somewhere. But other than that, you don't get anywhere. Maybe here for a while, like God says, I'll let them enjoy this life for a while, but just for a while. And we know that there are people who don't have those things, yet their lives are very calm and very fulfilled. And also, as I was saying earlier, is that the Quran has taught us that God is in full control of our money, of what we look like, of how our lives are, the thread that we walk into our lives. And it seems pretty unfair that God would choose some people to have money and looks and put them in heaven because of that. But what makes more sense is that God has given every one of us, no matter what standards we have, He has given us that freedom of choice, which makes us equal and makes us the wise ones if we seek to choose the right path. And that's where we'll be if we do the commandments in the Quran. If the people of Jesus or Moses' time did everything that they brought down through the Bible or the Torah, and if they did those things, then they will be in the far heaven. And of course we know that this is the most complete, the prayers and the fasting and the charity and belief in God alone and the hereafter and working righteousness. And God willing, that'll put us far ahead and make us sovereigns on earth, no matter how much money or anything we have. And a lot of times I think that's really hard to understand, and a lot of times we get bogged down. I know I do, like when I see someone, who has cute clothes on, or is really pretty or something like that, and you just have to step back and think and say, that's not important. You have what God thought was good for you. God says that you'll be in the gardens of bliss. Multitudes from the early generations. Gardens of bliss is, of course, heaven. Multitudes from the early generations. We have a footnote that says, the early generations of Muslims were characterized by following the whole Quran, and nothing but the Quran. 250 years after the Prophet, Hadith and Sunnah appeared, followed by the various schools of jurisprudence. This marked the progressive deterioration of the Muslim nation. This tells us the early generations, those are the people that had the big prophets. Those are the ones who had the messengers. And, well, we have messengers too, but it just seems like then it seemed like it was more in people's lives. Now it seems like technology has taken our lives so much that people don't think about God actually sending angels down, or messengers down, or miracles down. But, so those people who did follow the exact correct way were in the early generations, and there are some people now. But right now, it seems like we just need more and more and more proof to make us be disciplined enough to understand. And it seems like as time has gone by, people just want to interpret the way they think. If they don't like something, the way it sounds, they have to change it to the way they want it. And that just makes a lot of conflict. And thank God that's why we have the Quran, which is so easy to understand. And God says it's easy to memorize and understand. And it says in the footnote that 250 years after the Prophet, these two books appeared. And we know that these two books are the books that have all the traditions, the things that are totally contradictory to the Quran. And these people are so blind that they don't even sit down to compare, to understand and see that it is contradictory to what their prophet that they idolized brought down. Number 14. But only a few from the later generation. And this again tells us that, it's just the later it gets, the harder it is for people to understand and to follow. And they're so bogged down by the material things of this life that it's too hard for them to be religious and to do 5 daily prayers and or fast for a month. They couldn't see that at all. And so it seems like it is harder. And I guess now we have all the prayer and we have all the 5 commandments, and it's more I don't know what you want to call it, technical or something, to get there's more work maybe to get to the highest heaven, and it's harder for those people who want to work that hard and want to put in the time to do their prayers and their fasting and wake up before dawn. and it is harder, and it just seems like those people have to go through more tests, and it just seems fair in that sense. God says that will be on sturdy furnishings. They will relax in rows facing each other. Serving them will be immortal servants. I know that a lot of these descriptions of the high heaven or the low heaven, or maybe even the hell, they're all allegorical. And God knows us so well that He explains all these things to us in a way that we could understand. And so everybody loves to relax, and they love to have stable things around them. It seems like one day you're down and the next day you're up, but God willing in heaven, everything will just be the same. And it says serving them will be immortal servants. We'll have people serving us. Whereas later on we'll find out that in the lower heaven they have to work for their water. They have to pour their own water, whereas we have servants. Not we, but people who are in high heaven. I hate to be in the high heavens, and they will serve us with cups, pitchers, and pure drinks. So it just shows that we're just going to have to do less work. The more work we do now, the less work we'll do then. If this, then that. Just do it. They are never diverted therefrom, nor deprived, which is great because we know as being here as humans and being weak like humans, we have a tendency to be diverted, but thank God we're pinched here and there, and we learn. The ones that want to learn, they learn, but we do get diverted. But there, God says you won't be diverted, and we won't be deprived. I won't have to look at it. No, it's too cute. With what? Oh,
Does this mean that when you said they won't be diverted or deprived, doesn't that mean the absence of anything satanic? Because Satan was the one who diverted Adam and Eve and deprived them of their garden there. So there won't be any Satan in heaven to divert you from your reward or deprive you from it.
Yeah, right. With fruits of their choice, so whatever we want, and meat of birds that they desire, anything we choose, anything we desire, and magnificent spouses. We won't have spouses like we could have on earth, but I guess maybe it could mean that since people supposedly love their spouses, then they can love up there just the same and more. And they won't have to go through any kind of troubles. It says that God describes them as precious pearls, and which is again wonderful. This is the recompense of their works, which shows us that the more righteousness you are, and the more work towards goodness that you do, the better you will be treated in heaven, and the more you can have. They will hear no vain talk therein, nor sins. Only utterances of peace, peace. I know that in the Quran it says believers should not commit gross sins, or they should stay away from sin. Yet God says that He understands that we do get diverted sometimes. And it says that we shouldn't sit around tables where people are talking rumors, and that if we sit with them, we are just as guilty, and that we should get up and leave. And if we don't, we stay by mistake, then get up and leave when you remember and repent. And that we shouldn't speak behind each other's backs and things like that. But I think that a lot of times, especially when you're in groups of people, things like that, you do fall into all that. You do fall into rumors, and it just seems like when people get into a group, they disagree on so many things. It's like they say, don't talk about religion, don't talk about government, don't talk about, I don't know what else, but they'll talk about rumors, because it's the one thing that seems like a group of people just really understand together. They really have fun with it, and they don't have fun if they disagree on religion. People want to kill each other if they talk about government or religion or discrimination or racism or anything like that. But rumors, it seems like it's an easy topic, and it'll get people to be friendly with one another, and it'll pass time. But up there, we won't have to stoop that low, and again, Satan won't be there to take us that way and make us forget. There won't be no sin, there will be no sin, and there will be no vain talk, but there will be just peace and happiness, and God willing will be there. Any questions?
Verse 15, very good news. Not flattering you, but you're very, very special future. You've got to go to the highest heaven. To explain to you why. When Abraham started the religion of Islam, according to God's instructions, he and the people around him were worshipping God alone. And as time went by, Satan sneakily, gradually added idol worship until the time of Muhammad came, some centuries later. By the time Muhammad came, they were worshipping lots of idols. Lat, Manat, Uzza, and all that. They were in the Kaaba that Abraham built. And you've read how many verses in the Quran that say Abraham was never an idol worshiper. Yet there is the Kaaba that he built that was full of idols. And then God renewed the message, sent the Quran to Muhammad, and sent Muhammad to tell the people the idols are bad, worship God alone, worship God alone. So what happened? And Muhammad and his company were persecuted severely. They threw on them all kinds of dirt and thorns. Then they banished them when they grew. There were about 10 or 15 people for about 3 years. Then they grew to about maybe 25 or 30 people. Then they thought they were getting too strong, so they banished them out of Mecca and boycotted them. Those people were abused. So those have to have a special place in heaven. They went against the current. They were worshipping God alone in an ocean of idolatry. You can easily see that they are very special people. They will be in the highest place in the high heaven, because even within the high heaven and the low heaven there will be ranks. Okay, now, 20 years ago, you see how it says here, few from the later generations. Now these are later generations after Muhammad. 1400 years after Muhammad. There is not a single mosque in the Muslim world that was worshipping God alone, that is upholding the commandment, the mosque belongs to God, you should worship, you should not mention other names of God. And then God renewed the message right now. And the message went loud and clear, ringing throughout the whole world, worship God alone, say La ilaha illallah, not La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And devote yourself to God alone, uphold the commandments of the Quran, purify your worship, your prayer is wrong, your fasting is wrong, your zakat is wrong. These are all blessings from God that He sent to our generation. And again, we are subject to the same persecution, the same ridicule, like us. Yours truly cannot go into any country in the Middle East and be shot within 24 hours. But just to symbolize this. And if you go to the Middle East, you better disown me and ask you to do that. When God says, even disown God, if you are under those circumstances, as long as your heart is filled with faith. If you don't want to get in trouble, you better tell them, I don't know Alfatehe. But this is, you are a very, very special people. You've gone through the mill, ridicule, and mocking. Today, Tasneem calls me from New York, and she was talking to some relatives of her in Chicago, who are very active in the so-called Islamic Center. And she told them, I'm devoting myself to God alone. I only say La ilaha illallah. And guess what they said? They said Tasneem went to the dogs. She's worshipping God alone. And this is ridicule, right? You ridicule her. You're saying La ilaha illallah. You're saying worship God alone. Even God alone, that's all you have, God. I mean, you see the logic? Ridiculing her. Mahmoud was working the other night, and some so-called Muslims walked in the store. And they saw the label says Muhammad and Mahmoud on the label. They said, are you a Muslim? He said, yes. They said, how come we don't see you at the mosque? He said, how come I don't see you at the mosque? So they said, oh, you mean you go to that mosque? The mosque that worships God alone. Right? Now Noah, if you remember in the Quran, Noah said, because Noah was building the ark with a flat float, whatever you call it, water raft, and they were laughing at him, and he told them, he said, you're laughing at me, but I'm really laughing at you. This was Mahmoud actually was doing in the store. Because they said, oh, we never believe in mathematics. Now listen to that statement. Now, on that day, they probably had an exam in calculus, right? University. And they had to follow the formulas and the equations, and otherwise they would not. So they believe in mathematics, but if it comes to God and the Quran and worshiping God alone, they don't believe in mathematics. So they were looking at Mahmoud, ridiculing him, and of course, he knows poor souls. Just like Noah, he was ridiculing them. Just like he was laughing at them, just like they were laughing at him. But this makes Mahmoud a very special person. This is what it means, multitudes from the early generations. We are the first generation of renewing the message. And we see it very clearly. Every one of us is in the light, and we can see it. Just go in any mosque in the world and say, La ilaha illallah. They will beat you up. You are saying, worship God alone. So you can see what happens after centuries from the first generation. Abraham was the first generation. And those people, when they threw Abraham in the fire, right? In those days, there was no America for Abraham to run to. They threw him in the fire, so what did God do? He turned the fire into a cool and safe place. Because God says, do not think that I will abandon my messengers. God creates exits for them. So the exit for Abraham was a cool and safe fire. And the people who were with him, they were persecuted. They have to be special people. Because the easiest thing is to go along with the masses, the crowds. You think this shook Mahmoud? Not one hair. This is why he's very special. I'm just using Mahmoud as an example. Muhtasham went to a grocery store to buy some Middle Eastern stuff. And he met some Arabs there. They're just totally ignorant. They know nothing. But he says, yes, we'll go to Masjid Dusan, we worship God alone. And they almost beat him up. He wasn't big enough and strong enough. And a Turk. He would have beaten him up. So why did you have to take all this abuse? All this ridicule? Do you think it shook him up? Did it affect his faith? If anything, it strengthened his faith. Well, he knows that those people are off. He knows they're ignorant. He knows they're not worshiping God alone. He knows they lost. They probably never pray. Those people that do. You think they pray? Well, you don't know? You don't know? And he doesn't know how many surahs in the Quran.
As he was saying, he's all fired up. I saw that 266. I said,
God is telling you, I'm with you.
He's miserable. Just because I worship, I choose to worship God alone. It's a good day. I mean, they so ignorant. They say, how can we say all those people don't believe like we don't? There's some way around.
That's the abuse, ridicule that all of you went through. All of you.
There's
Every
no
single
base
one.
for the argument.
The Bashar couple, the Bashar, they ridiculed him so many times. You mean you go to that mosque? And the answer is, show me a place where they worship God alone. I said, no. We go to that place. I will go to that place. Any place where they worship God alone, we will go. God is the one who process. God is the one who created you. God is the one who provides for you. God is the one who controls your health, your welfare. God is the one who controls your happiness. God is the only one who controls your success. Muhammad is dead. The saints are dead. Jesus is dead. Powerless. Even when they were alive, they had absolutely no power. So, I mean, there's just, because you're going through, this is the first generation. We are so lucky. We are a first generation, like Abraham's generation, Muhammad's generation. Muhammad's generations went through the ridicule, the abuse, and they had to leave their city, Mecca, and go to Medina. The persecution they went through. Because of this, God reserves a special place for them. God is reserving a special place for us. I'm saying it by God's grace. So I have this very good news for you. Because you fit here in verse 15. Multitudes from the early generation. In 50 years, I assure you, in 50 years, there will be millions of people worshiping God alone, upholding the Quran alone, and praying the correct way. Millions. In just 50 years. But they will be following the crowd. They cannot be like you. They will be protected by their numbers. Right in this location, right here, there will be thousands. On this block, in this mosque. And they'll be powerful. There will be people jumping on the wagons. But they don't deserve the same position or the same credit as you. So this is what it means. Multitudes from the early generations, but only a few from the last generation. Because these are the far ahead. In Arabic, Sabakun is Sabakun. These will be the closest to God. They're very special. That's you. And you start collecting benefits now. And we've seen it. We have a history already. We have a track record in this mosque. 10 years. We have a track record. A perfect track record in this life. It's guaranteed by God. You may have a pinch here and there, but it's because we make mistakes. The tests are brief for you, but if you stray off the path, you know you're going to get a pinch. And you get the pinch and say, thank you, God, and come back to the path. You are very special people. You deserve a lot of congratulations. God says in Surah 35 that the angels have wings 2, 3, and 4. 2, 3, and 4 because the angels closest to God will be the most powerful, the highest in rank. You have more wings. This is figuratively speaking. And these are Sabakun, these far ahead people, like yourself, will be there. I mean, all those are angels, but still, they have ranks. And 50 years from now, the thousands of people who will be in this location, inshallah, they will go to the high heaven, because they worship God alone, and they will pray the correct way, and they'll go to the high heaven, but they cannot attain your rank, because you're the ones who are taking the abuse. The people who take the abuse and the ridicule have a very special position in the Bible and in the Quran. I had a little thing they hanging there for a while that says, congratulations to those who are persecuted. For the prophets also have been persecuted. Remember that verse? I had it hanging there. And this is God telling you congratulations. So we are very, very lucky, and I'm stressing, I keep stressing this because I cannot stress it enough. Just so we can thank God, so we can be appreciative, so you know who you are. Satan will always put doubts in your mind. Always will tell you you're nobody. He hates your guts, okay? Because he's going to be deep, deep in hell. You hear that, the man? You were asking about Satan in the hereafter? He will not be in heaven, no. He will not even come close. He and his troops will be way deep down in the lowest pit of hell. And he'll be beating them, and they'll be beating him. He's going to spend eternity doing that. So he will try to tell you you're a nobody, but you speak back to him. Tell him, I believe God. And I believe that I am in this group, multitudes from the early generations. Because this is the first generation. I mean, I couldn't believe it myself. For a long time, I said, it couldn't be just just us here worshiping God alone. Must be millions in the world. I discovered that I'm naive. The human being is really bad. I was talking to my nephew, Sharif, in Egypt. And he says, I'm the only one in Egypt. He really is a believer. And you can tell the people who believe, because they are in the light, they understand. And he's the only one that I know in Egypt that is really a believer. Inshallah, he will come to the conference. It's only 20. It was for 2 weeks before bed. He's the only believer in all of Egypt. I mean, I was really naive. I said there must be millions in Egypt to worship God alone. Nope. Wrong. So that's why I'm speaking so strongly. I'm telling you, you're very special. And when Satan tells you you're not, you tell him to shut up. You're very special. This is the verse that talks about you. Congratulations. Yes. And this time, right now, because Muhammad's time, Ibrahim's time, and this time, our time, we are a first generation right now. Because we are the fortunate generation that is renewing God's message, restoring it, cleaning out all the junk and innovation. When you go back to Iran for a visit, you would be, which town will you be in? Tehran? I think you'll be the only one in Tehran who's praying the correct way. You and the kids. You'll be the one, and they laugh at you. When you tell them in the tashahhud, just say the name of God alone. So you mean you don't mention Muhammad or Ahl al-Bayt or Ali? No. See, this is what we cleaned out. Cleaned out all the creatures and just mention the Creator. This is restoring the religion. So you are a first generation. So this makes you special or not? When you're the only one in Tehran who's praying the correct way. Tehran is how many millions? 5? Yes. To see the details. But this circle here, you start on this side, you put down start with the first verse of Quran, and write the number of every verse of Quran, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. First surah, 7 verses. Then put 7, the number of verses in the surah. And then do the same with every surah, all the way to the Quran, only in the upper half. And then, okay, let me do the other way around. Start with the number of verses in the surah, 7. And then the number of each verse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you link with the other system where you put the verses first and then the number later. Okay, you will end up with a number that is in a circle that is 25,400 approximately digits. Numbers. This number is 1 mile long. And it is divisible by 19, and it has all the numbers of the Quran with the two systems. One system where you put the number of verses at the end of the list of verses. Another system you put the total number of verses at the beginning. And in between the two systems, you have the number of the verses in the whole Quran. It's going to be in the circle. This, eventually, is going to convert the whole world, because they will know that this book is not human-made. I mean, the Americans are becoming so strong now that they will be irresistible. So we may be a very special, you're still a very special group, generation, because you've been here even before this miracle was half this strong. It is growing now. And 50 years from now, it's going to be very common knowledge. People will accept it easier because there'll be more people talking about it. These people told Mahmoud, we don't believe in mathematics. They don't even look at it. But as they jump on the wagon, they will look at it and they will see it and they will know. They will not just believe, they will know that this is God's message to the world. So the later generations for us may be different from the other. There are only 300 years left
doesn't God say that he does not offer?
Yes.
That it's going to be as time goes on, it's expected.
This with the system. You see, Christianity was corrupted 300 years after Jesus. I mean, totally corrupted. They had the Nicene conferences, and they invented the Trinity and everything. 300 years after Jesus. With Muhammad, it was 300 years that the Hadith became recorded, and Islam was wiped out. Totally corrupted. 300 years after Muhammad. Now, with our generation, when it is 300 years, it will be the end of the world. And this is documented here in the Quran. So, we have a special situation here. Also, we have a verse in Quran in 41:53 that says, we will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until they realize that this is the truth. So this is a prophecy that God gave us. And this is what's happening now. And it will take 300 years for the world to realize, probably every single person on earth to realize that this is God's message to the world. And I suspect the world will end with the only believers on earth. That's when Satan will throw up his hands and say, I give up, I have no constituents anymore. That will be the end of the test. The miracle is very powerful. And this is the very reason why you are very special people, because you believed from the very beginning. Some of you, even without looking at the miracle of God, you agreed to worship God alone and uphold the Quran alone. That's a very special situation. I stole the show from Naghmeh for a while. I thought it was very important. I wanted you to know who you are.
Verse 7 says, will be specified in 3 classes. There are some words also like question and some deepest possible. Does it mean that there is also a specification within this?
Yes, within each layer, yes. But you can call this hell, and there will be grades of hell in there. Be the deepest. The hypocrites will be in the deepest pit of hell. The hypocrites are people who think they are believers, they say they are believers, they believe they are believers, but they are not. Those are the hypocrites. But the whole place is hell. And God says those who verily miss hell and make it into the lowest layer of the purgatory, God calls this a fantastic triumph. Because he who missed this thing called hell, within which there are strata, different layers. The same with the lower of heaven, and the same with the high heaven. Because the people in the purgatory, they cannot go much higher, but they are fantastically happy. They are in heaven. And within heaven, like I said, there will be a line beyond which you cannot go. There's some natural borders. Your growth and development will decide that. You know, every time you get abuse and ridicule, you grow immensely. That's why Mahmoud came out smiling out of that episode. So did Muhtasha. Yatud comes across those ones in the mind.
I have one right in law school.
Yes.
He's not going to law school, but he works in the library. God, one time he went like this, so almost hit me. He was
worship God alone, right?
And he was like, Dr. Khalifa says that it's okay for you to repent. Muslims don't have the right to repent. And I'm like, excuse me? That's exactly what he said. He says, God doesn't tell us we have the right to repent, and he tells us that you can repent 100 times. And I'm like, of course you can. Without repenting, we'll all go to hell. Are you kidding?
I guess I never knew.
Oh, so many other things. And he's like, you need a Muslim husband who'll teach you how it is. And I said, I'll teach him how it is. So yeah, if I beat him too.
That's what he needs.
I said, I'll teach him. Yeah.
Let me tell you the kind of ridicule and the kind of stupidity they have. I have it on tape here. This fellow came from Denver, Colorado, and he wants to talk to me. So I said, if we have any basis for talking, I will talk to you. And I said, anyway, the conversation ended by me challenging him to say La ilaha illallah. I'm really convinced they cannot do it. I mean, I really know this now. Sam was listening. I told him, you are forbidden by God from saying La ilaha illallah. He said, are you crazy or something? Of course I can say La ilaha illallah. So he said, go ahead, say it. So he say it. Remember? And he would say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasul. I said, see, you cannot say it, can you? He said, of course I can say it. I said, go ahead, say it. Say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. See, you just proved to me that you cannot say La ilaha illallah, can you? Because you are forbidden by God. I mean, here I'm challenging this guy to say La ilaha illallah, and he cannot say it. I have it all recorded on the tape. So this is a I kept challenging, and I guess he got so mad. So a half hour later, he called and he said, I'm going to bring the gun and kill you tonight. Yeah, I have it on tape. So now he's so stupid because he talks to the machine, it's recording it, and it's straight, along with his phone number and everything. So of course they called the police went and paid him a visit. But that's how stupid, how angry he can. Would you threaten somebody and record it with a machine? Yeah. His address was divided by 19. But this is the kind of abuse, the kind of ridiculing that every time you go through this, you grow immensely. This is a very special treat for you. If Naghmeh and Alfatehe did not have the courage, they would have quit long time ago. I mean, from cousins to brothers to uncles, relatives, aunts, everywhere, friends. So ridiculing them. Look at them. Steady, persevering. You are sick, they're close. God takes the believers out of darkness into the light. And how can you go back to darkness after you've lost the light? You cannot say La ilaha illallah. Actually, I know they're forbidden by God from saying it. Or hypnotized by Satan, or whatever the mechanism is. So within the high heaven there are ranks, within the lower heaven there are ranks, and within hell there are ranks. But these are the general divisions. As we saw in Surah 55, there are a big difference between the high heaven and the lower heaven. But what we have seen are the general characteristics of it. Congratulations. Yes, sure. No, there will be more believers than ever. Now, by the way, some people that were kind of suspicious of my population estimates, and God never turned me down. Parade magazine, the last issue, has an article of the population. They have the population curve there. It is in full agreement with my estimate. So,
Are you talking about the grass eaters and the early generations, including us in the bar?
Right. Because I showed that the people from now to the end of the world will be 15 times as many as the people from the beginning of Adam until now. In other words, the vast majority of the human race are getting the message that our generation is beginning right now. We're starting a message of worshiping God alone, upholding God's word alone, and this is the message that God wills for the vast majority of the human race. 70 billion people. See, up to now we had 6 billion people. From now to the end of the world, it is projected that we'll have 70 billion people. Now, to answer Dr. Sabahi's question, the verse in the Quran says, it doesn't say that everyone will be a believer, but it says, I will show them my science until they realize this is the truth. So prophecy is God will spread His science until everybody becomes not everybody, maybe everybody, but at least almost everybody will be the miracles that we are seeing now, and they have all discovered the people connected with us, the people who believe exactly like we do, and this is an exclusivity. This is a very strong sign, and these miracles will be known by everybody. I'm telling you, in 50 years, there'll be millions of people worshiping God alone and following the Quran alone. Millions, just 50 years, maybe less.
You know what I was going to say also is that it's not only that we're going to have more people later who are going to be seeing these miracles, but also there's another mercy, I think, from God in that the old generation, there might not have been as many people as we're going to have, but the lifespan then was, 35 or 40 years old. Women died in labor. If there was the wars between Spain and, the Europe and stuff, they were all young people. And so, it seems like there was mercy there too, because they're all young and they died young. Yeah, and they're right. Amen. Okay, the lower heaven. 27. As for the inhabitants of the right side, they will be on the right side. They will enjoy lush orchards and fresh fruits and abundant shade and water to be poured, and many fruits, always in season, and exalted furnishings. We raise spouses for them, never previously touched, magnificent companions, exclusively reserved for inhabitants of the right side, multitudes from the early generation, and multitudes from the later generations. Okay, number 27. This we see the difference between this is from the far ahead to the right side. And, we've said it over and over again. Well, we know that the people who died before the age of 40 go in the lower heaven. And we know that the basic rules in the Quran to make the lower heaven is to believe in God alone, to work righteousness, and to believe in the hereafter. And those people will make it. And the right side just sounds so right. Because, first of all, like we know from, the joke that we always play is that God knows everything. God knows the one who is really, really, really mean and bad. And He will keep them until they're old. But the ones who die before they are 40, obviously God knew that there was something right about them. And just because, their life was shorter than ours doesn't mean that it was any kind of bad, thing from God's position. But that maybe they were going to prove a test for their family or whatever. But that the thing is that God knew they were on the right side. And God tells us that at the age of 40, before the age of 40, they go to the lower heaven. And it just makes sense that those are the people who died before that age, and plus of the tests and things for our families. But they are still, they're still protected. And so if you're on the right side here, you'll be on the right side there. You won't be up at the top of the people who really tried hard, but you'll be there. And also, I think a lot of times, there are a lot of people who believe in God alone. They believe in the hereafter, and they work righteousness. But it's just way too difficult to ask them to do anything else. They might give charity, but, on their own. A lot of people maybe do, but they probably don't even give money or anything, but old clothes type of things. But
God says He will want them righteous.
Right. So it's some kind of charity, but they will not do the prayer. It's too hard. They say, I could see myself doing 1, but 5, and I'm like, you're not doing any, God doesn't need you to be doing this. It's for us, and you're not doing any favors for God for doing your prayer, but it's a favor for us. And over all that, to think 25 minutes maybe out of your whole day, 24 hours, is really nothing. And I hate to think of it as that, but sometimes it just brings you down to saying that. But anyways.
They didn't lie at this.
I know. So, Again, we're going to hear some allegorical things. There's going to be some difference from the highest heaven. There's going to be shade and there's going to be fresh fruits, but it doesn't say what they choose. It doesn't say what they desire, but there will be fresh fruit. And it says in water to be poured, which means poured, I guess, from them, because it doesn't say that they will have servants. So that means a little bit more work for those people. But they will be taken care of, basically. I don't understand why it says here we will raise spouses for them, but in the other one it says that they will automatically have, magnificent spouses. What's the difference between raising spouses for the right?
It's like if it was the one that taken care of God, or you can put the seed and then it wants to grow.
I mean,
Yes,
that is great. Okay. And here we have multitudes from the early generations and multitudes from the later generations, which goes along with what you were just saying, that in the later generations that come after the people who went through all the trouble and the hassles of people laughing at them and mocking them, there will be a lot of people who will be, God willing, following the scripture. The footnote says, because all the humans who die as children will be assigned to the lower heaven, the proportion from each generation is about the same. That also makes sense, of course. We just know that, multitudes from the early generations, that could be the people who, the younger, the ones who died before the age of 40, because in the earlier generations, they died at a young age, and then the multitudes from the later generations could be the ones, all the people who follow us.
So, but because this how it happens all the time, no matter what is happening. It could be Abraham's relation, Muhammad's relation, Moses' relation, but there's still children die. Accidents, people die before 40, so this is happening continuously. No. Okay. The toy is there.
Yeah. Any questions about the lower heaven? Hell. 41. Hell goes right after 41. Wait, what? It's 41. Oh my God. Yeah.
This has a meaning. Yep. 41 means you don't make that. You don't make that decision by that.
Okay. That's the year I've been doing now.
41 and higher. We didn't make decision. Remember the circle? See, this circle here means every verse in the Quran is numbered according to a system. God's system.
As for the inhabitants of the left, they will be on the left. If you don't work righteousness, you don't believe in God alone, you don't do the commandments, you don't listen to your inner intuition to believe in God and work righteousness, then you will be exactly where you deserve to be, which is hell, which is the left side. Oh, I'm sorry.
If you go to the Sura that we looked at last week,
It's 41.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
There has been any doubt. Let there be no doubt, folks. 40. 40 is the cut-off point.
We're like the people on Noah's Ark, or people walking through the sea, with Moses. God, we're just like those people. So wonderful. In ill winds and retribution, in shade that actually burns, never cool, never tolerable. They used to be spoiled. They insisted on the great blasphemy. They used to say, after we die and become dust and bones, do we get resurrected? Even our early ancestors say, the early generations and the late generations will be gathered together on a predetermined day. Then you, O strayers and disbelievers, will eat from the trees of bitterness. You will fill your bellies therefrom. Then you will top it with lava. You will ingest drinks of humiliation. Such is their position on the day of judgment. We created you, if you could only believe. Do you see the semen you produce? Is it you who created, or are we the creators? We have designed death for you, and nothing can prevent us from substituting others in your place and establishing what you do not know. Stop there. Again, if you don't work righteousness and believe in God alone and everything, then you will be in hell where you deserve to be. Again, allegorically, I believe it very graphically explains to us what it's going to be like in hell, and I don't have to be there to already feel it. And it says that ill winds and retribution, and they will be constantly burning, and they can just never get out, and just it seems sad in a way, but again, God has just put hell, created hell, and we put ourselves in there, and God knows in every scripture it's described what hell is going to be like, and people just don't understand, they don't believe in it. They used to be spoiled. They insisted on the great blasphemy. They used to say, after we die and become dust and bones, do we get resurrected? They used to be spoiled. That seems like such a, good word again. Spoiled. It's like, it seems like the people who just want to be in control, and the people who just think that material things make them happy, and if they're down, well, it's okay, honey, let's go shopping or whatever. Actually. Wait.
But you must can do that too. That's upset.
I take that back. I said thank you, God. How can I say thank you? Well, anyways, those spoiled people who think that they are just in charge and that they can make things better or worse on their own, and they don't need anyone else or anything else, and as long as they have their everything that they like in this life, then it's fine, and they don't have to question the hereafter. That they don't feel that there's anything holding them back for them to be seeking God. It feels like a lot of people, when they go through a bad time is when they go towards God, and it says it in the Quran. It says, whenever hard times comes to them, they remember me, and when things get better, they forget about me.
And bad weather friends.
Hmm?
In the new translation, bad weather friends. When they are about to drown, or the plane is in trouble, they remember God. Only when it is just to say. And as soon as they land on shore, they forget God.
And they just insist on the great blasphemy, no matter how many times maybe hardship falls upon them, how many times they get stuck in the Black Sea or whatever, they still might go back. Well, the people who are in hell, they do, but some people learn from their mistakes. And the question, after we die and become dust and bones, do we get resurrected? So many people have troubles with that. They'll believe in maybe reincarnation, I went to this comedy club the other day. I have never gone to one before. And so many times they talked about Shirley MacLaine saying that she's going to be, she was in reincarnation. She'll be back. She was an elephant or something. In the hereafter, but she will not believe that she could, her soul could be raised, but she'll believe in reincarnation. And so many of these people brought up the same thing, up on the stage. And, anyway, so they question that too. And God says if you don't believe in the hereafter, one of the pillars of the lower heavens, then that's it. Even our early ancestors, there's no difference. We know that God has sent us prophets and messengers throughout the community and throughout our lives. So whether it's early ancestors or later ancestors, we're all going to be resurrected together, no matter what. Say the early generations and the late generations, just like what I said, will be gathered together on a predetermined day. We know that the day of resurrection, the day of judgment, will come in about 300 years, and that everybody will be waiting in line, and they will be judged by their souls and their videotape, and we're all going to be together. We're all going to see what the other person is, and there's nothing you can hide. And like it says in the Quran, it says, even, the ones who are friends will be hating each other on that day, if they didn't work righteousness. So I'll be together. Then you, estrayers and disbelievers, will eat from the trees of bitterness. You will fill your bellies therefrom. Then you will top it with lava. You will ingest drinks of humiliation, which again describes everything that they go through and how miserable it would be where your soul is not developed. Such is their position on the day of judgment. We created you if you could only believe. Do you see the semen you produce? Is it you who created it, or are we the creators? Again, this is a reminder again for us to take a look at, gosh, how were we created? How did all this come about, and it's just incredible how the whole system of, I guess, getting pregnant or whatever works, and it's just really amazing. And somebody doesn't question where that came from. They think that it came from generations of monkeys, and I think there's something wrong.
Anybody see Nova? Nova, we're talking about this. Had a program on it. And the seed sources of fruits, first position.
Only one out of just
Anybody sees that does not believe in God. You can't imagine anybody watching that not believing in God. It's a few days ago.
Just how perfect every single woman's body works. I mean, it's amazing. And God questions it. Is it you who created it? Is it the prophets who came down? Is it the messengers who created it?